So now let's get into the meat of the situation, the central aspect of nihilism as we experience it today. The way it's used to control the masses, to create uniformity, to create internal balances, to annul natural drives so as to accomplish this. The first way to accomplish this is to teach a child from birth that his past does not matter, that he has no such thing as nature, that he's born tabula rasa, a clean slate, upon which now he can be written upon and trained, so to speak. They call it education. This is a form of social engineering. They don't want to call it anything else because it goes against the common popular morals. The first victim of this method is, of course, bloodlines. Not only your family, but your race, your kinships. The second is sex. That is, you're born sexless. You have to be trained to be a sexual being, or what sexual being you're going to be. Now, already we see the problem here. It's family, and family has to be eradicated. Now, in the past, the family wasn't a problem because systems were homogeneous. That is, the leader of the family, the father, shared genes and morals and principles and values with his leader. First his tribal leader, then his city leader, then his king, his emperor. With the advent of global systems, we have a problem. To harmonize heterogeneous populations becomes more problematic. The family stands in the way of this. For instance, you can have a Hindu father living within a Western system with different principles, teaching his child different principles than the official ones. You can have, this is a more pronounced case, a more extreme case. You can have a Muslim father teaching his children values that contradict the Western nihilistic ones. And of course, this becomes a problem of integration. The child has to be separated from this influence and become totally dedicated to the systemic principles. That is, he has to be taken away from his family. Now we see this method in its most primal stage with Abraham, when he's asked by God to kill his own son. A testament that he doesn't even place his own blood above the authority, the idea. So with the eradication of the family and the elimination of sex and race and heritage as an identifying marker, the child finds itself lost. It has nowhere to turn to. It has nothing to define itself with. And so what's the first thing it turns to? It's peer pressure, the system, pop culture. There it receives information, how to act, how to behave, what values to pursue, how to measure himself, his accomplishments, what to consider valuable and what to consider not valuable, what to respect and what not to respect. The father no longer is a factor. So you see how the emancipation of females plays into this. It suits the system because it takes away the children from the father that is a representation of his whole bloodline, his culture, sometimes a culture that contradicts the Western one, the nihilistic one, and leaves him vulnerable to systemic influences. And we see kids now today, how they're lost, how they turn not only to gangs, but to drugs, how they turn to pop culture, how they define themselves by superficial means, how despite all that they still feel empty, unfulfilled, lacking an identity. And of course, females clap along with this. They're all happy. They're happy that their children are modern, because women follow fashion. For women, fitting into the common becomes a matter of survival. It's part of her reproductive strategy. She wants peace. She wants stability. She wants to belong. She wants to accept without interference everything she is told to be true. She accepts authority. She bows to it because this fulfills her genetic role. She even plays the role within the system, like I've said in other videos, of mimetic filter. That is, she can exclude from the genetic pool any man who does not adhere to the social norms, to the cultural norms. Just as in the past, she was a genetic filter, excluding from the genetic pools any male that was crippled, that would had some genetic mutation that was unfit. This is her role. This is why she's more selective. And this is why men compete to prove themselves worthy of her selection. Men are selling themselves, so to speak. Women are buyers, they're shoppers. Now, to make the shopping power of females even more powerful, you have to restrict certain masculine options. That is, rape, violence, taking what they want, rather than asking or trying to seduce a woman, cajoling her, playing the beta male, bribing her. This raises a female's power automatically. The system loves this. It does it because it promotes harmony. It keeps men from doing other stuff, from rebelling against the system, keeps them focused on sexual pursuits, trying to gain sexual access, trying to conform to sexual ideals so as to become attractive to females, and so forth. So the first part of this leveling mechanism is to nullify the past. And by the past I mean nature. To slander the world, to make appearance irrelevant. That's why we hear that beauty is skin deep, that appearances don't matter. It teaches a child not to respect its own sensual awareness, not to have confidence in it. It also promotes the myth of a ghost in the machine, as Pinker put it, that underneath everything there's a secret world, a core. Beneath all the movement and all the activity there's a solid ground. That beneath the appearances we're all one, and bullshit like that. Then the system in homogeneous systems promotes the family unity, the family unit, because it integrates men within the system. It makes them investors in the system. This becomes disadvantageous to the system later on, not only because of technologies, but because the father, being the representation of his entire past, his bloodline, sometimes passes on to his children ideals and principles that the system does not agree with, or go against the system's principles and ideals, and this has to be eliminated. That's why the family now is being reinvented. It's becoming from a reproductive unity into just a sharing of sex. Sex has become meaningless, with no purpose, no goal, no spirit. It's just fucking. So you can have lesbian families, you can have homosexual families, you can have, well, in the future you can probably have any kind of fucking family you can imagine. Maybe you can, a woman with her poodles could be considered a family, who knows. So another aspect of this leveling, of this slandering of nature, of this dismissal of the past, or the selective interpretation of nature. Sometimes we teach our children that, yeah, there's natural selection, but this doesn't apply to humans because humans are excluded somehow. They're special. They're animals, but they're a special kind of animals. So you can't judge them using the same principles. You can't look into nature and see, let's say, primate behavior and then apply it to human behavior, because humans are complex. If humans are so complex, then why are they following the same behaviors? Why are marketing ploys so effective? Why are political campaigns so effective if human beings are so complex? I would say not only are human beings not complex in their majority, but they're becoming more and more simpler because they're becoming more and more uniform, more and more stupid and base, except for, of course, a very small percentage. We're talking about the majority here. This also applies to the fabled female mystique. You know, like women are so mysterious and so complex that no man can comprehend them. Of course no man can comprehend them, because men listen to what women are saying. They're not watching what women are doing, because women do one thing and then say something else. When men stop listening to what women say, because women just repeat what the popular myths are, they just follow, they just regurgitate, they just parrot things without fully understanding them. When they stop listening to women and they watch what they're doing, then they realize that not only are women not complex, but they're fucking simple. They're little children. The only thing complex about a woman is how she manages to even trick herself into believing the shit that she's doing. You know, saying that, you know, beauty is skin deep, and love is in the inside, and all that shit, and then refusing to go with an unattractive man. So they say one thing and then behave in a totally contradictory manner, in a natural manner, but totally contradictory. Let me give you an example of how uniformity works, or how the illusion of equality works. Let's say you had a dog and a cat in your house, and you, as their master, using a method of threat and reward, train them to behave in a uniform manner. This is up to your decision to decide what uniform manner you prefer, whatever you prefer. So whenever they remain disciplined to your rules, they got a reward. Whenever they broke the rules, they got punished severely. Now eventually the cat and the dog would behave in exactly the same way, even though by nature they're not the same species. But a moron then would say that the dog and the cat are the same. There's no difference between the dog and a cat. Now you take away this authority that imposes this upon them, and what happens to the dog and the cat? It reverts back to its original behavior, to their original behaviors, their genetic behaviors. The same shit happens with humans. A law and order disappears, they revert back to the same primal behaviors. Same with women. You take away the controlling mechanism, what put a restriction on their sexual behavior, they revert back to their primal behaviors, promiscuity and all that, and men too. Of course, all these practices can be put under one heading: domestication. Now I use feminization for one reason only, because it explains the behavior better. It reconnects it back to a sexual type, and it connects it in a way that explains why this sexual type evolved and why it's preferred by the system. Why the more tolerant, docile, obtuse, simple creature, the female creature, is preferred. The creature that wants to participate, to belong peacefully, that accepts authority easily. Why it's preferred by the system, and why men are getting a bad rap, so to speak, and why they're expendable, and have been, not only recently but through the ages, from history, from natural history. When men compete over females, they die. They're expendable. Sperm is cheap. Not my fault. This is the way things are. Now we might say that a lot of the things we're seeing today, increasing disease, mutations, stupidity, simplicity, is a byproduct of earlier paternalistic practices. That is, when you force women to accept all males and to reproduce with them, you perpetuate within the gene pool mutations that are unfit, and these accumulate over time, and they accumulate, and in time they become symptoms of diseases. That's the end of part 1. Part 2 coming up.